Hey everybody, imagine you've finally cleared a corner of your garage, you've got a decent ceiling, and you're staring at that empty space wondering if it's worth turning it into a year-round practice area. You're not sure if you'll end up with a half-finished golf cave that just takes up room, or a solid setup that actually lets you work on your swing without stepping outside every weekend. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. That hesitation whether you're about to waste money on something that looks good on paper, but falls apart in real life has been on my mind ever since I started looking into indoor golf solutions. When I first dug into the indoor golf market, the biggest red flag for me was how many kits promise everything you need, but then leave you hunting for missing brackets, extra screens, or a way to protect your launch monitor. I also heard a lot of stories about people buying a huge enclosure only to discover their ceiling is too low, or the frame ends up wobbling after a few months of use. The risk of spending a few $100s on a product that either doesn't fit your space, or doesn't stand up to regular swings is real, especially when you're trying to protect a pricey launch monitor, or a high-end simulator. That's why I zeroed in on the Indoor Golf Shop SIG10 Golf Simulator Enclosure. The company markets it as a professional-grade kit that comes with a SIG10 premium impact screen, a quick connect frame, protective padding, and all the poles you need, all in a footprint of roughly 11 by 8 feet and 5 feet tall. It's an all-in-one package, which on the surface sounds like it solves the missing pieces problem that plagues many other kits. First off, the impact screen really does feel different from the generic nylon or mesh you see on cheaper enclosures. The SIG10 screen is a heavyweight, matte black fabric that's designed to absorb high-velocity ball impact while still giving you a clear visual of the projected ball flight. In practice, that means you can use a launch monitor like the SkyTrack, or a FiGolf sensor, without worrying about the ball punching holes, or the screen tearing after a few dozen drives. The screen's tension is maintained by a set of rubber cords that snap into the frame's corners, and the whole thing can be tightened or loosened with a simple pull-and-lock motion. I tested it with a driver swing at about 120 miles per hour, and the screen held firm, no sag, no tearing, no weird wobble that would mess up the sensor's data. The frame itself is built around a series of aluminum poles that connect via quick connect joints. The joints are the kind you'll see in a pop-up tent. You slide the pole end into a socket, give it a quarter turn, and it locks in place. The biggest win here is speed. I could get the whole perimeter up in roughly 15 minutes, even with a friend holding the screen in place. The downside, though, is that those quick connect joints rely on a tight fit to stay stable. If you have a particularly uneven floor, say a sloping garage floor, you'll need to shim the base plates a bit, or the whole structure will lean over time. That's not a deal breaker, but it's something to keep in mind if your space isn't perfectly level. Protection is another area where this enclosure tries to earn its "From Golfers, for Golfers" badge. Along the inside of the frame there's a thin layer of high-density foam padding that cushions the poles from any stray club heads. I've seen a few setups where the poles get dented after a mishit, which can lead to wobble and, eventually, a need for replacement parts. The padding on the SIG10 seems to keep the poles from taking direct hits, so after a week of regular practice, I didn't notice any dents or wobble. The trade-off is that the padding adds a couple of inches to the overall width, so if you're counting on every inch of garage space, factor that in. Now let's talk about the practical side of daily use. Once the enclosure is up, you essentially have a mini studio. The screen faces you, the padding lines the perimeter, and the open front lets you swing without feeling boxed in. I paired it with a SkyTrack launch monitor and a basic projector for a visual flight path. The screen's matte finish diffuses the projected image nicely, so you get a clean, bright ball trajectory that's easy to read. The biggest convenience is that you can leave the whole thing assembled for weeks at a time. There's no need to break it down after each session, unlike many pop-up tents that are meant for occasional use. The only real maintenance I can think of is keeping the screen clean. Dust or sweat can create spots that affect both the visual and the sensor's accuracy. A quick wipe with a damp cloth does the trick. So, Who should actually consider buying the SIG10? If you're a golfer who already owns a